Have you ever felt like just one word could change everything? Like, the moment it leaves your lips, something shifts, something deep, ancient, powerful, maybe even forgotten. You're not here by accident. Some part of you remembers a truth buried long ago, and now it's time to dig it up. Welcome to the Enchanted Archive, where lost wisdom doesn't just hide, it finds you. If something's already stirring inside, if you feel that pull in your gut or your soul, just lean in, go ahead and subscribe, click the bell, and like this video. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Because there are words, and then there are power words. Every ancient tradition, from the mystics of Egypt to the monks of Tibet, from the Gnostics to the Hermeticists, spoke of sacred names, sounds, and syllables. Words not meant to be uttered casually, not because they were dark or evil, but because they carried charge. Charge like lightning, like truth, like something that could rip open your understanding of the world. There's one word in particular, whispered through the ages. In temples, in secret schools, scribbled into forbidden books. This word has been tied to madness, to awakening, even to death. And yet most people have never heard it. Or worse, they have, but didn't recognize what it truly was. This isn't just a deep dive into ancient language. It's a journey to the core of what the Hermetics called the word of power. See, in Hermetic philosophy, everything begins with logos. The word, but not just a word, the way we think of it now. Logos was the original code, the first vibration, the divine sound that birthed everything. So imagine, if a single word could create a universe, what else might it do? Could it heal you? Destroy illusions? Open gateways you've only seen in dreams? Science is finally catching up. We now know that sound literally shapes matter. Cymatics shows us how frequencies form patterns in sand, in water, even in our bodies. The ancient mystics didn't have wave generators or YouTube explainers, but they knew, they felt it. In stillness, in ritual, in devotion. The right sound could align your spirit or completely unravel it. And now, what if I told you that buried deep in the Hermetic texts is a specific word believed to carry that exact kind of energetic frequency, not just symbolically but literally. A word tied to solar force, the astral body, and the sacred balance of opposites. Some say it's divine. Others say it's connected to the name of God, or maybe even the false creator, the one the Gnostics feared. But don't worry, I'm not just going to drop it here recklessly. There's a reason it's been hidden. There's a reason initiates only spoke it with protection, in ceremony, after years of preparation. So instead, I'll take you on a journey. We'll trace the story it left behind in Egyptian temples, in Greek mystery schools, deep into Hermetic alchemy. We'll uncover where this forbidden word came from, what it truly means, and why speaking it out loud might just change everything. But for now, just remember this: words don't just describe reality. The right word creates it. So what makes a word forbidden? Is it the sound of it? Or is it what the sound stirs up inside the person who says it? To figure that out, we have to rewind way back to ancient Egypt, to the temple schools of Hermopolis. This was the realm of Thoth, the Egyptian god of wisdom, writing, magic, and language itself. Later, when the Greeks got a hold of his story, he morphed into Hermes Trismegistus, thrice great Hermes, the mystical father of Hermetic knowledge. Now here's where things start getting strange. Thoth didn't just write sacred words. He breathed them into existence. To him, true words weren't just sounds. They were alive, they had power. And that's the spark that lights our path, the belief that the right word spoken at the right moment, with the right vibration, could open doors, lock forever. Over the centuries, certain sounds became too powerful, too dangerous, so they were hidden, passed down only through whispers in mystery schools, encoded in forbidden texts like the legendary Book of Thoth, a book said to grant unimaginable power, and just as easily, madness. Mainstream scholars tend to write it off as myth, but bits and pieces of similar teachings have popped up in all kinds of old writings, Gnostic scrolls, Hermetic fragments, even early Christian apocrypha. And across those sources, one name keeps showing up. A name that's more than just a word. It's a key, a frequency, a force. That name is Abraxas. To most people, it sounds like any other ancient name lost to time. But to those who studied the mysteries, Abraxas was something else, not a god, not a demon, both and neither. Abraxas embodied contradiction, light and dark, creation and destruction, good and evil. He was the symbol of the ultimate paradox, a being that shattered the idea that the world is black and white. And that's what made him dangerous, because speaking his name with true awareness, that meant inviting that paradox into yourself. It meant facing your own duality. Hermetic thinkers believed every sound had resonance, and words like Abraxas carried shockwaves that hit the soul. Not because they were evil, but because the human ego isn't built to handle that level of truth. Imagine flipping on a light that shows you everything, every fear you've buried, every truth you've denied. That's the kind of awakening the word was said to trigger. In magical traditions, the name Abraxas was engraved onto amulets and talismans, but rarely spoken aloud. Writing it was safer than invoking it. These amulets often showed a strange figure, part man, part serpent, part rooster, holding a whip and a shield. It wasn't just weird art, it was encoded meaning. The rooster stood for awakening, the serpent for danger and transformation, the whip and shield, control, protection. To the initiated, this figure wasn't decoration. It was a spiritual map, a symbol for how to navigate the chaos the name might stir inside you. So now, ask yourself, what would happen if all the opposites inside you collided in one place? What would wake up if the veil between your light and shadow disappeared? Because here's the part no one really talks about. The danger in forbidden words isn't just in saying them. It's in what happens after, when the world answers back. In part 3, we'll dive into how words were used in ancient rituals to open portals, summon spirits, even alter fate itself. We'll follow the echoes through Hermetic chants, Gnostic hymns, and we'll explore why sometimes silence was the only thing that could keep you safe. But hey, don't worry. You've already crossed the threshold. The sound has been set in motion. And once you hear the truth, you can't unhear it. So, what really happens when that forbidden word isn't just studied, but spoken? In the old Hermetic traditions, speech wasn't something casual. It wasn't just about chatting or tossing words around. It was sacred. It was potent, dangerous. To the Hermeticists, words weren't just a way to talk. They were a way to invoke. A word, when spoken aloud, wasn't about getting the pronunciation right, it was about the vibration. The breath behind it, the tone, the intention. That combination was believed to form an energetic key. Not just to unlock some dusty knowledge, but to open doors to presence, to forces, to fate itself. Their rituals. They weren't filled with chants for show. They were precise, powerful. Each chant was like a frequency, passed down from master to student in secrecy. These weren't songs to sing, they were formulas, structured to match the geometry of the cosmos, the rhythm of the planets, even the heartbeat of the person speaking. Take something like the Hymn of the Pearl. It's a mystical Gnostic poem meant to stir something deep inside, to help the soul remember where it came from. People didn't sit around trying to interpret it like a puzzle. They felt it, whispered it in dimly lit temples, with incense swirling in the air and silence heavy in the room. It was sacred space where the silence listened more than the ears did. Then there were the conjurations. Some texts talk about rituals where sacred words weren't just for inspiration, they were used to summon. Not demons or angels like you see in movies, but something more abstract and strange. These beings were like living ideas, archetypal forces, intelligent patterns outside the physical world. That's why these rituals were never done casually. You'd prepare, fast, cleanse, set up a protective circle, sometimes a 12-sided one, to align with time and space itself. Sacred names etched around the edges. You'd stand at the center, balanced, focused, and then you'd speak. Sometimes nothing would happen, but other times the air would change. It would feel thick. The light would twist. You wouldn't feel watched, you'd feel heard. That's why silence was so important. Not just as a pause, but as an act of reverence. Because the ancients believed that once a true power word was spoken, the universe listened. And when it answered, it didn't always shout. Often, it responded with stillness, with something you'd only catch if your soul was quiet enough to receive it. But there was a risk. If the word was spoken without purity, if pride, doubt, or greed crept in, then the vibration would shift. The gate wouldn't open, it would close. And instead of claritas would follow. In the next part, we'll dive into the anatomy of that forbidden word. We'll pull it apart letter by letter, sound by sound, and explore how sacred geometry, like the flower of life, or the tetracties, might hold the blueprint to its power. Because this word wasn't just made to be heard, it was made to transform you. So far, we've peeled back the layers: myth, ritual, reverence. But there's one layer of the forbidden word that remains the most elusive: its structure. To the Hermeticists, a word wasn't just a random string of letters. It was a pattern, a vibrational formula, a map of the universe hidden in sound. To truly understand it, we have to venture into the space where language and mathematics collide: sacred geometry. Think about all the ancient symbols carved into temples or sketched into arcane diagrams: the flower of life, the tetracties, the vesica pisces. These weren't just decorative flourishes. They were blueprints, visual expressions of the same frequencies carried by sacred words. Take the tetracties, a simple triangle made of 10 points in 4 rows. To Pythagoreans and Hermetic thinkers, it represented everything: unity, duality, balance, creation. But beyond that, it also mapped sound. Each row connected to a breath, a syllable, a tone. So when a mystic spoke a word like Abraxas, they weren't just saying it. They were tuning into a geometric frequency. Picture this: a 7-letter word where each letter aligns with a planet, a chakra, a note, a shape. That's what Abraxas was. Stood for beginnings. B for contrast and duality. R for radiance, revolution. And it went on like that, each letter, a cosmic thread. The name wasn't just a name, it was a miniature universe. Some even believed that chanting Abraxas in the right tone, like a vocal code, could activate the Merkaba, the light body described in both Kabbalistic and Egyptian teachings. When those sounds lined up with your chakras, it was like unlocking a star-shaped energy field inside you. A rotating star tetrahedron, alive and moving. And once it was active, you didn't just feel different, you perceived differently. That's why sacred geometry wasn't just etched into temples for beauty, it was meant to teach, to instruct. The flower of life, found all over Egypt and Hermetic scrolls, is believed to contain the pattern of all living things. Some researchers even argue that each petal, each interlocking circle, matches the same ratios found in music and in DNA. So when a word mirrored that pattern, it wasn't magic in the fantasy sense, it was resonance, pure physics of the soul. Even today, we know that sound changes depending on the shape it moves through. If you speak into a chamber built around the Fibonacci sequence, the sound doesn't just echo, it amplifies. Ancient initiates knew this. They spoke powerful words inside domes, catacombs, carefully crafted spaces that worked with the sound, because structure plus vibration, activation. Here's the deeper truth: the forbidden word wasn't feared because of what it meant. It was feared because of what it did. When spoken inside the right shape, in the right way, it didn't just carry power. It became alive. And in the final part, we'll pull all of this together. We'll see how the forbidden word wasn't just a spell or secret, it was a challenge. A mirror, a door. And in the end, the word doesn't transform the world. It transforms you. So far, we've followed the trail of the forbidden word through ancient temples, cryptic texts, sacred symbols, and old rituals. But here's the twist: the most powerful place this word lives is inside you. You see, the old Hermetic teachings weren't really about hoarding mystical knowledge or decoding ancient secrets. They were about becoming that knowledge, living it, breathing it. And the real purpose of the forbidden word, it wasn't about saying it out loud to conjure something external. It was about lighting a fire within. In ancient initiations, speaking the word wasn't the final act. It was the moment of reckoning, a kind of soul mirror. Because once you say the word, it doesn't just hang in the air. It moves through you. It searches for what's out of alignment. It shows you who you really are underneath the layers. That's the beginning of transformation. But transformation, it doesn't always look like peace and bliss. Sometimes it feels like falling apart. Because before your soul can rise, your ego has to fall away. That's why these words were considered forbidden, not because they summon darkness, but because they shine light and truth. Truth has a way of burning away illusions. It shakes you. It tears down the false self. Speaking the word is like a death, not a literal one, but a symbolic shedding. The Hermeticists called it dying before dying. And if you make it through that moment, what's on the other side isn't just information, it's gnosis. Pure, lived, undeniable knowing. Some described it as hearing the silence speak. Others said it felt like remembering something ancient, like something they knew before they were even born. And this is why the old mystery schools protected these words so fiercely. Because if you're not ready, the word doesn't unlock power. It unleashes chaos. So where does that leave you? Maybe you've already felt something stirring. A memory, a pull, something familiar but just out of reach. And maybe that's why you're still here. Because part of you already knows you are the temple. You are the ritual. You are the word. The real risk of forbidden knowledge isn't in learning it, it's in what it demands from you afterward. So if you decide to keep going, to speak, to search, to awaken, do it not with fear, but with reverence. The word was never meant to be owned. It was meant to be lived. And now that you've heard it, the work has already begun. Hermetic tradition says once a truth is heard, it keeps echoing, calling you back to yourself again and again. So if something stirred in you, if something felt familiar or strange or meaningful, follow it. Trust it. And if you want to keep exploring these hidden threads of ancient wisdom, sacred symbols, and forgotten truths, you're invited to join us. Subscribe to the Enchanted Archive. Don't miss what's coming next. And hey, if this message stirred something in you, let us know in the comments. What did you feel when you heard the word? What do you think its true power is? Like the video if it resonated with you. Share it with someone who's ready to awaken. This isn't just content, it's a calling. And we've only just begun. Until next time, speak with care, vibrate with truth, and listen, really listen to the silence.